The fourth chapter of Tagore's My Reminiscences is called Servocracy, and in this chapter, uh, he talks about the servants that used to work at the Tagore household. And there are two perspectives to this. The first is how servants in the household behaved with the children, that is, with Tagore and his uh, brothers and everyone else who was young in the family when they were children. But also, there is yet another uh, side to the story of, or rather, another side to this chapter, servocracy, where servants are in focus. And the other side is those who used to work for the Tagore household, not in the capacity of, you know, being guardians of the children, but rather being, say, teachers, for example. So the word servant in this chapter is used in a very inclusive manner, right? Do not think of the word servant specifically in the context of Tagore's writing as something, someone who is a menial labor. That is not the case in Tagore's writing, at least not in My Reminiscences. So keep that in mind, at least while reading this chapter. So the first excerpt we are going to look at from this chapter uh, is a memory of Tagore being punished. Right? It is not a memory, rather it is, memories of being punished brought together. So this excerpt goes as follows. We howled when we were beaten. And every time Tagore says we, you have to keep in mind that there were other children in the household. Tagore was the youngest among his brothers, but it was a large family. In fact, it was an extended family living together, right? So not only were Tagore's brothers part of the household, which they of course were, but there were Tagore's cousins and other family members, other members of the extended family. So a lot of children in the household. So every time he says we, at least in the context of his childhood, he is also referring to the other children in the household. So here he says, we howled when we were beaten, which our chastisers did not consider good manners. And if you read this chapter well enough, you will realize that our chastisers is not a reference to parents. It's also not a reference to other relatives who lived with them in the extended family, but it is a reference to what he has repeatedly referred to as servants, right? Or perhaps the word we would be using today is caretakers, right? So these servants, he says, were the chastisers of the children who did not consider this howling when being beaten as good manners. It was in fact counted sedition against the servocracy. I cannot forget how, in order effectively to suppress such sedition, our heads used to be crammed into the huge water jars then in use. So, as you can see, this is not the most pleasant of experiences. Someone's head being crammed into a massive jar of water. It's surely not a very wonderful experience. And as for children specifically, the memory of it is surely extremely unpleasant. And Tagore specifically mentions these as one of the memories of being punished as a child. And he mentions that when they were beaten, they used to howl, and the fact that they used to howl was seen as sedition, right? Um, sedition is Sedition is when someone or when a group of people. It is also applicable to a group of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be an individual. So whenever an individual or a group of people, rebel against or say something against the rulers or the government, it is often called sedition, right? And so whenever they were beaten, they used to howl, and this was counted as sedition against the servocracy, right? And Tagore specifically says that he cannot forget how, in order to suppress that sedition, their heads were crammed into huge water jars then in use. right? And that, as you can surely understand, was not a very pleasant experience. Then he says, the next excerpt that I have chosen, um, here Tagore talks about the result of confining children, right? He says, I now sometimes wonder why such cruel treatment was meted out to us by the servants. I cannot admit that there was, on the whole, anything in our behavior or demeanor to have put us beyond the pale of human kindness. The real reason must have been that the whole of our burden was thrown on the servants, and the whole burden is a thing difficult to bear even for those who are nearest and dearest. If children are only allowed to be children, to run and play about and satisfy their curiosity, it becomes quite simple. Insoluble problems are only created if you try to confine them inside, keep them still, or hamper their play. So here he essentially, brings about his experience as a child, and surely his observations of children, and together, bringing these experiences and observations together, he talks about what happens when those in charge of children, whether it's the parents or whether it's the servants, whoever it is, um, if children are confined, the result is not very pleasant. And to use Tagore's own words here, insoluble problems are created if you confine them inside, right? And try to keep them still or hamper their play. So, just to give you a quick recap, because I don't think there is anything specifically difficult that requires unpacking in this excerpt. It is surely significant because he offers a commentary as to what happens when children are confined. But of course, I do not see any reason for this to require, a breakdown or an analysis. So, to quickly recap what he says here, he points out, as he has pointed out before, the chapter, remember, is titled Servocracy, and I have already explained at the beginning of the class who the servants are. Do not think of them as menial laborers. Servants in this context are the caretakers who looked after the children, and also, as you will see later in the chapter, even teachers, right? So the word servant is used very generally, right? It is not used to imply what is today the commonplace use or commonplace meaning of the word servant. So do not go by that. Use it in a more liberal, a more inclusive sense. All right. So coming back to what I was saying, to quickly recap what he says here, is that if children are allowed to run about, to play, to do what they want to do, to satisfy their curiosity, it is not very difficult to manage them. However, it becomes extremely dangerous to manage children if you try to confine them and force them to be still, right? Very simple message here, not much explaining required. Okay, so two more important excerpts from this chapter. Now the first is in relation to a schoolmaster who was also a servant at their house named Ishwar, right? So Ishwar had discovered a way of keeping us quiet in the evenings, right? Again, every time he uses the plural we or us, remember that there are other children in the house. Tagore is the youngest of them, but there are other children as well who are often brought together, managed together by the servants, and of course, even they have a common teacher in this case, to before whom they would sit in the evenings and listen to his stories. So every evening, he says, he would gather us round the cracked castor oil lamp and read out to us stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Some of the other servants would also come and join the audience. The lamp would be throwing huge shadows right up to the beams of the roof, the little house lizards catching insects on the walls, the bats doing a mad devilish dance round and round the veranda outside, and we listening in silent, open-mouthed wonder. Right? So, to my understanding, this shows Tagore's early interest in literature. Right? Just look at this sentence, the last sentence, where he says that we listened in silent, open-mouthed wonder. Right? And this is, of course, in relation or in reference to the teacher reading out stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Remember, this is a time when, of course, printing is available, printing technology is there in India at that time. However, remember, this is way before the internet. This is way before there were hundreds or thousands of book publishers, right? So almost none of the publishers that you are aware of today, even the publishers that are based in Calcutta, were not present at that time. So what I'm essentially trying to tell you is that there were too few publishers, too few books were published, and there were also very few authors, right? So essentially, when it came to literature, um, teachers or students for that matter had very few works of literature to choose from, and the most obvious ones became the epics, right? In this case, Ramayana and Mahabharata, which was read out to them um, by the schoolmaster here, Ishwar, right? So let's now look at the subsequent quotations, which are again in relation to this reading sessions of Ramayana and Mahabharata. So these two quotations, the last two excerpts as displayed now in the current slide, I believe they show Tagore's love for verse, right? Not just his early love for literature is displayed here, but very specifically his early love for verse. And we all know where that takes Tagore, and we also know what that has resulted in terms of literary creativity, in terms of the amount of literature that has come down to us more than 100 years since Tagore's day. So he says, I still remember on the evening we came to the story of Kush and Love, and those two valiant lads were threatening to humble to the dust the renown of their father and uncles, how the tense silence of that dimly lighted room was bursting with eager anticipation. It was getting late, our prescribed period of wakefulness was drawing to a close, and yet the denouement was far off, right? So, like I said, this is in relation to the reading sessions of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which the children used to attentively listen to. And they have already mentioned, Tagore has already mentioned, that they used to listen to it silent, to use his exact words, in silent, open mouthed wonder. Right. And in continuation, he here refers to a very specific episode from the Ramayana, which they had great anticipation for, and the story was so interesting that the dimly lighted room, was bursting with eager anticipation. And even though it was getting late, and their prescribed period of wakefulness, this essentially means that there was a time at which hour they had to go to sleep. But even though that time was quickly approaching, the denouement, or shall we say the climax of the story, denouement has a very specific meaning, but I would like you to find that out, right? This is a Greek term, and ancient Greek scholars such as Aristotle have used this term. I would leave it up to you to find out the meaning of this term. Denouement is in reference to the climax of the story, to the unfolding of the story. I'm only giving you a hint, not giving you the exact meaning. Please find it out, right? So, even though it was getting late and the prescribed period of wakefulness was almost over, the denouement was far off, right? Finally, he says, the impression of the soft, slow chant of Krittivasa's 14-syllabled measure was swept clean away, and we were left overwhelmed by a flood of rhymes and alliterations. Like, I have skipped a few lines here, a few sentences I have skipped here, but what here essentially happens is that the Ramayana, which was read out to the children, was written by Krittivash Ojha, a very famous Bengali poet from the Middle Ages. Well, not exactly from the Middle Ages, sometime around the 16th and 17th centuries. Check on the dates. I forget the time period when Krittivash Ojha was writing, but he is famous for having translated the Ramayana into Bengali. And his is a very famous translation, one of the most famous translations. It's more than 300 years old, but it remains one of the most popular versions. So this is in reference to this. And Tagore, as you can see, refers to how these 14 syllables meters were of particular interest to him. However, if you read this chapter closely, you will realize that um, even though he was fond of listening to the 14 syllabled measure, in this specific instance, he says that the meter was swept away. That the like by meter, of course, I mean the poetic meter, the flood of rhymes and alliterations. Those were all swept away because the story was hurriedly finished, right? So essentially, to bring it all together, the last excerpt and these two excerpts, um, to my understanding, these show Tagore's early interest in literature, but also more specifically, his early love for verse. So, that said, we end our class on chapter 4 of My Reminiscences.